Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming and talking to me. I want to start out, actually, I'm here to talk about 5 years in the future. I want to start with a story about a year and a half ago, but really 40 years in the future. I have a lot of gray hair, but I also have a 13-year-old, and he's 13 then. He brought home a not-so-great report card. And I looked at him and go, what are you doing? What do you want to do with your life? And he looks up at me, and he looks down at our dog sleeping on the rug. And he looks up at me and he says, Dad, I want to be a pet of the robot overlords. And I'm sitting there, you want to be a what? A pet of the robot overlords. This is my legacy? This is ambition? And I said, you don't want to be a... You don't. I thought, he's 13. 40 years from now, we're all going to be pets of the robot overlords. The things that really drives companies and drives people to success is those who can leverage the technology of the day. And he's smart enough to realize the technology of the day is the robot overlords, and he wants to be a pet. He has a specific goal to be a good pet. That's not such a bad career ambition. In fact, I couldn't come up with anything better at all. Okay? Gartner says the smart machine era was the most disruptive in the history of IT. IT is arguably the most disruptive thing in the history of technology. Technology is the most disruptive thing in the history of man. Man's the most disruptive thing in the history of the planet. I'll stop there. It's probably enough. But you need to realize 100 years ago, 98% of people in the United States made their money with their muscles. They worked on farms and factories, 98%. Today, about 2% do. Today, 98% make their money with their minds. As Mihir pointed out, 100 years from now, I don't know about that. Your children will not drive. Your children will not write. Your children will not compose music. Your children will not make buying decisions. Why? Because there's computers today that are already threatening all of those things. They're already challenging human capabilities in all those areas. And if you look at the Moore's Law, which shows no sign of abating, 40 years from today, do a little math. Computers won't be 10 times faster and better. They won't be 100 times better. They won't be 1,000 times better. 40 years from today, computers will be a mind-boggling 4 million times better than they are today. We're all going to be pets of the robot overlords. Any statement of the form, humans will always be able to do X better than machines, is blatant biosupremacy. Let's just be honest. So what does that mean? Why be a pet? What can the robot overlords do? Well, let's start out with this problem. This is a picture of a modern operating theater. Last year, the Institute of Medicine came out with a fact. Hospital error is the third leading cause of death in the United States. Heart disease, cancer, hospital error. It's not well known. It's not well known because hospitals don't like to advertise, yeah, we screwed up and we killed grandma. It's just not well known. But it's well studied now. Somewhere between 220 and 440,000 people a year die because of mistakes. Here's a classic one. One of the most common operations there is, heart bypass. Forgot to turn the ventilator back on. Patient's heart beating, everything's working fine, patient's not breathing. That's a bit of a problem. Harvard Medical School actually did a survey of the top surgical teams in the country, and shockingly, every single one had made the same error. And you think, wow, that's easy, let's just fix that. The problem is they surveyed many things, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of failure modes. It's a very complex environment, and you're not going to fix it with human people checking things, because they're all talking to each other. If you look at this scene, there's Post-it notes on computers. There's 42, Dr. Goldman took this, 42 medical devices in that picture. None of them are connected to each other. None of them even know they're connected to the same patient. They can't help at all. How can we fix this? Well, we put together some intelligent software. We put together oximeters with capnometers and infusion pumps. This is actually a thing called PCA, patient-controlled analgesia, kills 2 to 3 people a day. But with a smart monitor that's 24/7, 60 by 60, you can reduce those to essentially 0. along with everything else. And it's happening today. This is GE Healthcare, one of our big customers. This is actually, it's a more complex problem than that. This is a simulation we did in our lab of their problem. Their design is for 1,200 beds and 200,000 devices. 200,000 devices. It can build an intelligent, smart network between the ventilators and the respirators and the oximeters and the incubators and the infusion pumps and all the devices in the hospital and turn them into a practicing, practical part of the care team. It's phenomenally valuable. It will completely change medicine. Medicine has not been disrupted significantly since the 80s when they finally figured out that monitoring it all improved patient outcomes. Another problem, burning fuel burns us. Central generation, the entire power grid is designed around these big spinning generators. How many have a solar panel on their house? You feeling good about your carbon footprint impact? I'm sorry, you shouldn't feel that good about it. Unfortunately today, the way it works, you got a bunch of big power plants spinning metal. They take about 15 minutes to significantly power up and down. One-way power flow out to the neighborhoods, lots and lots of load in the neighborhoods. This is how it's worked literally since the 1930s. The last disruption here was the invention of three-phase power in the 1930s. Start putting solar panels out there. Well, what happens? Solar can change in seconds. Entire neighborhoods can be covered by clouds in less than 15 minutes. You can't spin up or down the power plant that fast, and you can't ever let the power generation drop below the load because the load is done with frequency control, and whatever you lose frequency a lot, and that's called a blackout, and the entire neighborhood and the entire city can go black. You can't do that. What do? They spin more. It's called spinning reserves. Sounds great, but it burns almost as much energy as you did before you had the solar panels. Even worse, that energy's got to go somewhere. Most of the places that goes is to heat up the power plants. In fact, it's gotten so bad in places like San Diego that they're considering building another oil-powered plant just to take the heat load from all the spinning reserves required to cover their solar energy load. Solution? Well, what do you think? Put a little bit of storage out there. You don't need days of storage. You need 15 minutes of storage. A little bit of intelligent software. You wrap local loops. You can check the generation load, battery storage, just like having all the machines in the hospital understand they're talking to the same patient. Now they have all the machines to understand they're managing the load. It doesn't change the average load much, but it does make it much, much more stable, and you can drop the overload. You save roughly 5 times the amount of energy you save with solar otherwise. Big difference. So I couldn't find a picture near my house, but you guys know where this place is a little bit. Getting there is dangerous and it's slow. I actually started my career crashing cars. I had a job at Michigan, University of Michigan, doing impact testing, biomechanical impact testing, we called it. We worked very hard on it. Back then, I remember 45,000 people a year were dying in the carnage on the US freeways. Last year, 35,000 died. There's more driving, to be fair, but over all those, 30-something years, and despite, multi-stage airbags, electronic stability control, anti-lock braking, belt pretensioners, crumple zones, on and on and on and on, incremental change. And it's also a waste of an incredible amount of time. What's the solution? Why drive? The intelligent, smart machines could do a much better job. The driverless car, by the way, as a term, will last about as long as the horseless carriage did as soon as this technology is proven. So I'm calling them carbots. Actually have hashtag carbot. But you heard it here first. But they will change everything. 30% of the jobs in the United States are directly related to driving, and I'm not talking only about bus drivers and truck drivers and taxi cabs. I'm also talking about roadside motels. The insurance industry will go away. Auto body shops, real estate will change. But it will fundamentally change the way the world works more than anything before, never anything since the car itself. And autonomous cars. And for the record, we're in 6 production track autonomous car things and 1 production track autonomous flying car program out there that's coming much sooner than you might think. This is a diagram of how it works. I'm not going to go through it, but just get the idea. There's perception, there's situation, there's planning, there's vehicle control. It's a very, very complex software environment. The fundamental disruption, it's software. You go talk to the auto industry, you talk to the executives or the managers or the designers, they're all mechanical engineers or they're designers. There's not any software expertise to speak of in the entire industry. It's hugely disruptive. They now have to compete on software. So what is a disruption? The disruption, my humble opinion, is best summed up by one of the value VCs. Software is eating the world. It's absolutely eating the world. GE CEO Jeff Immelt probably said it most famously and best. If you went to bed last night as an industrial company, you wake up tomorrow as a software and analytics company. This is General freaking Electric. These guys make big turbines and trains, and they are the definition of a big industrial. And they're going to be a software and analytics company. Maybe we should learn something from that. So, summary, the smart systems out there, you know, your children may not drive, they may not write, they may not compose music, but they will live in a much cleaner, a much more healthier, and a much safer world. They also will not, I'll make another prediction here, they will also not be making buying decisions, and so you're going to see Google go down 10, 15 years. Their business model's over, just for an example. Because advertising isn't very useful if you have a smart digital assistant doing your buying decisions. So that's probably more gutty than the car bots. But my message is not gloom, it's boom. Unprecedented opportunity. This is from Cisco, $19 trillion, World Economic Forum, 2/3 of the world economy, McKinsey, everybody. It's going to be the biggest improvement in the economy and most efficient change ever. I started with my son, 13, here he is about 5. The industrial internet is $1 trillion feast. There's an amazing variety of ice cream out there. The problem is it's melting. You don't have a lot of time to make a decision. The decisions you make today will make the difference of how your company survives, how your children survive, how you thrive in this industry. Not 10 years from today, today. Not 1 year from today, today. Mihir pointed out you've got about 5 years. I think it's less than that. How to survive and thrive? Be a pet. Embrace the robot overlords. It was the most brilliant statement I've ever heard. And if you want to sum it up in the soundbite, find your link to Things That Think. So.